since we're talking about releasing investigative files and getting to the bottom of criminal activity that are directly associated with this president. I got more from Scott McFarland. He breaks down the news so smoothly. Here's what he's talking about now.
Tucson, Arizona, a special election to fill a vacant U.S. House seat, the House seat of the late Raul Grijalva. The favorite in that race is the Democrat Adelita Grijalva, Mr. Grijalva's daughter. If she wins, when she's sworn into the U.S. House, Ms. Grijalva would make a 218th potential signer of the discharge petition that's going through the U.S. House on a bipartisan basis, which would require, if passed into law, the Trump administration to release all Jeffrey Epstein case files. This could be a pivotal election and signature and ultimately vote in the U.S. House, which changes the trajectory, or at least the politics, of the Jeffrey Epstein matter, something the administration may be trying to turn the page on, but on Tuesday, unlike Monday, that page is more stuck.
So it looks like they're potentially going to get their last House member to then sign on to this release of these Epstein files, which they've been trying to get. That one last person coming in is in Arizona, and she today may get that seat.
People should know September 23rd, we'll have the 218 signature. 7 days from that, we'll have the vote. First week of October, this is going to pass. There was someone who was coming in for Gerald Connolly's seat, and that got us to 217. On September 23rd, Rep. Grijalva's successor is going to be sworn in. It's going to go to the Senate. Schumer has already called for it being brought up in the Senate. This is the first time that the survivors are going to have justice. This is the first time that you've had Republicans, Democrats, MAGA, progressives coming together to pass something. It's hopefully a moment of healing, not just for the victims or for this nation.
The possibility here is for, as they both pointed out, Adelita Grijalva winning her seat today in this special election out in Arizona. Again, today. So Mike Johnson's probably sweating bullets because his whole job is to protect Donald Trump against these things being exposed. Let me give you details of why people probably think she's going to win today. So Grijalva, who was heavily favored to succeed her late father, Raul Grijalva, in a district Trump lost by 22 points, said that she'd be pleased to force this issue. She'd be eligible to sign immediately after she's sworn in, likely early next month. Quote, "This is as much about fulfilling Congress's duty as a constitutional check on this administration as it is about demanding justice for survivors," is what she said. "The days of turning a blind eye to Trump must end." Oh yeah, that could potentially be a problem for her. And Mike Johnson, as I pointed out, Donald Trump is probably breathing down his back like, "Are you going to do something about this to save my ass?" We'll see what he can possibly do about it. Johnson, as they pointed out in this Political article, does have options. He can seek to block the discharge effort in the Rules Committee, which he nominally controls, but he has faced a string of mutinies over there since the Epstein file situation came up in recent weeks. Or he can let the bipartisan Epstein bill proceed to the floor, where it's very likely to pass, extending the controversy and handing the hot potato to Senate Republican leaders who are also afraid of Donald Trump. Asked last week about this dilemma, Johnson said that he wasn't ready to make a call yet. Here's what he said: "We haven't talked about any of that." He said that before he left the Capitol last week, also again calling it a moot point. He then referenced a House vote this month that directed the oversight panel to continue its probe. That same thing he keeps talking about, that they keep releasing it. Nobody really cares because we already understand it. I just want to point out one other thing, because I remember when the many of the survivors from Epstein's child sex trafficking ring came forward and were standing outside of the Capitol talking about their experiences and how they want justice and all that stuff. And then Donald Trump was inside saying that they're all fake and they're Democrat hoaxes and all that. I just want to point out again, Representative Melanie Stansberry, who I enjoy the way that she goes about things. After they had their meeting with Alex Acosta, again, the guy that ended up working for Donald Trump, but at the time was the one who gave the sweetheart deal to Jeffrey Epstein in the first place, and was seemingly rewarded with his position that he was given in the Trump administration afterwards. I don't know if enough people really saw what it is that these Democratic Congress people came out and said they heard him say and how he went about this case.
There were at least 40 minors who gave sworn statements to the FBI as part of the investigation before a decision was made in this case that they had been raped, abused, and trafficked. Over 40 minors. And the line prosecutor in this case wrote an 82-page memo to the leadership in the U.S. Attorney's Office recommending a prosecution. And she was so convinced, based on the evidence and interviews that she had taken and reviewed, that she drafted a 53-page indictment in this case. And what Mr. Acosta just told us is that based on his assessment of the case with his team, that he did not see sufficient evidence to move forward with prosecuting the case, that there were weaknesses in the case. When asked if he made the decision as to whether or not to fully prosecute this case, he took responsibility for it. He said it was the decision of him and his team. But when asked if he had directly reviewed the evidence itself in this case, he said that he had not actually read the statements of the victims. So let me just say this. Something doesn't smell right here.
Are you seeing a pattern? The people that are in charge of whether or not these investigations come to fruition keep shutting them down based off of nothing. The people that work the cases, similar like we're talking about Tom Homan, who worked the cases and damn near could have had their charges come right then. They pass it on down to the next level, and the folks now in charge, the people that are closely directly connected to Donald Trump, keep shutting these things down. And in this case, Alex Acosta never even saw it. He just said, there was enough evidence. Someone told me that there's not enough evidence. He never even saw it. Based on what? Who knows? Maybe someone should ask him, who leaned on you? Stansbury's not the only one that pointed this out. Here's Jasmine Crockett.
Think about that. Think about the responsibility that is upon a prosecutor to go after a child predator and then to say, well, at the end of the day, we don't think they would have been believed. As someone who has been in these courtrooms, who has had to defend against these very types of cases, let me tell you something. And I did try to educate him on the experts that we have that can lay out whether or not a child has any inconsistencies as it relates to the trauma that they have experienced. It doesn't seem like either Mr. Acosta was equipped to be the U.S. attorney at that time, or he's just playing in our faces. I haven't really figured out which one, but neither one of these ultimate conclusions should be okay for the American people.
I'm glad they're keeping their foot on the gas pedal here. This is, again, one of those big stories that Donald Trump keeps thinking was going to go away. And we see the stuff about all the political rhetoric talk, and we're seeing the stuff about horrible prices on our lives. We're seeing the talk about foreign wars. We're seeing the talk about how his authoritarianism and First Amendment he's coming after. All these things are very, very important. But you know what? I'm going to keep playing people talking about what is they saw and heard from the people that were in charge and were supposed to take care of this. Especially since last week, we just heard the people that are now in charge of what they're supposed to take care of continue to lie about what it is that they're covering up. There's a reason behind it. It's because it's really, really, really bad. Here's Robert Garcia.
Now, it's very clear that Alex Acosta ran a deeply flawed investigation of the Epstein case. That's clear. He also would not admit that Mr. Epstein received a sweetheart deal, which has been widely reported and agreed upon since that deal was actually made by Mr. Acosta and his team. So he would not admit, and in fact stands by the decision to have given Mr. Epstein a sweetheart deal, which was only 18 months, and which during that time, he went on to abuse multiple women. In his questioning, he also agreed and stood by those decisions and would not claim any responsibility to the victims, and in fact said, and was admitted that he had no knowledge of what happened to those victims, even to this day. When asked directly if he actually knew that people were being abused, that women were abused during that time, he would not admit that he knew that information and actually refused to acknowledge the victim.
It's like it's a concerted effort to make sure that this gets covered up. That's the whole purpose here. Alex Acosta, who everyone wanted to hear us talk to. How many news outlets have you seen them talk about what it is that Alex Acosta then revealed in that testimony? Here's the last clip. This is another one of these new Congress folks, another Democrat. I talked to him before about him before. His name is James Walkinshaw.
What did you learn from Acosta's testimony today?
Well, I think we learned what we've seen from Donald Trump and his allies throughout this Epstein saga, which is, in my view, a very callous disregard for the victims, the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. And I think Alex Acosta is in that category. The idea that Jeffrey Epstein, after the heinous crimes he committed, could receive an 18-month sentence, serve only 13 months, be released on a daily basis to continue his crimes, and then be released fully to commit more crimes is outrageous. It shouldn't happen in the United States of America. And the idea that Donald Trump then selected Alex Acosta to be his Secretary of Labor is also outrageous and raises a lot more questions.
You cover things up, you get rewarded with positions. You do things honestly and normally, you get fired, you get run out, you have to resign. I mean, look at what happened with HHS, look at RFK Jr., look at the CDC, look at how it works when you do things right. These guys are criminals and they work with normal criminal behavior. We're not letting it go.